The boss's son looked at the cleaning woman and began to laugh bitterly, but that laugh would have a price. 3 hours later, the same woman was sitting at the head of the boardroom, and he was her real boss. Those words, that laugh, the sound of the mop hitting the marble floor. I can still hear it all as if it happened yesterday. My name is Eleanor Hayes, and I am 42 years old. Before I tell you what happened in that building on a cold Tuesday morning in Chicago, you need to understand one thing. I built my empire entirely from scratch. No inheritance, no trust fund, no safety net. Just years of climbing from the bottom, making sacrifices most people can't even imagine. But no one knew that office was for me. No one knew that the woman in the gray cleaning uniform pushing a cart full of supplies owned the entire company. And certainly no one expected what was about to happen in that boardroom. Before we go any further, please hit the subscribe button and turn on all notifications. You won't believe how this chaos ends. And trust me, you'll want to see those spoiled rich kids learn the hardest lesson of their lives. Like if you believe people should never judge a book by its cover. Now let me tell you exactly how I made them regret every single word. It was 6:48 a.m. I walked through the service entrance of the Hayes corporate tower. Yes, it's Hayes. The building bore my name, but for years I had deliberately kept my face out of the media spotlight. No magazine covers, no press conferences. Just a carefully constructed wall of secrecy that allowed me to move around unseen in the world. I spent the last 3 months working the night cleaning crew. I was literally preparing for my role. Why would a CEO with a multi-billion-dollar fortune be cleaning toilets in his own building? Because I needed to see the truth. I needed to figure out who was running my company and how it was operating when I wasn't looking. I had heard rumors, complaints about the workplace culture, whispers of harassment, abuse reports that somehow didn't reach HR. My management team said everything was fine, but it was clear something was wrong. So I did something nobody expected. I went invisible. My gray uniform was 2 sizes too big. I didn't wear makeup. I put my dark hair in a simple bun. I wore thick-rimmed glasses I didn't need. I was becoming what a cleaning lady should be. Actually, that's exactly what I wanted. For 3 months, I watched my surroundings. I saw how lower-level employees treated each other when management wasn't around. I overheard late-night conversations in empty meeting rooms. I read emails left open on unlocked computers. What I found made my blood boil. But despite everything, I persevered. I waited. I waited for the day I wouldn't show anyone any mercy, and that day was drawing ever closer. As I entered the service hall, Maria whispered, "Good morning, Eleanor." She was the night shift supervisor, a kind senior woman in her 50s who had worked for the cleaning company for 20 years. She didn't know who I really was, but we had become friends in recent months. "Good morning, Maria. Is there anything I need to know?" I asked. She sighed. "There's a big management meeting today, on the 9th floor. They want everything perfect by 8 a.m. Mr. Hartford's son is visiting from the West Side office." I froze, my jaw clenched. It was him, Charles Hartford, Vice President of Operations, the man who had been obstructing my reforms for 2 years, always with perfectly plausible excuses. The man who always claimed to support my vision while silently undermining it behind my back. Were those men coming to our company? And his son, Vincent Hartford, 28 years old, MBA from an expensive school, zero real-world experience, recently transferred to Chicago to learn the ropes before being rapidly promoted to upper management. So he was inexperienced and had gotten there through nepotism. I had read Vincent's file. He had a bad performance review, 3 HR complaints that mysteriously disappeared, a behavior pattern that reeked of privilege and entitlement. "I'll handle the 9th floor," I said quietly. Maria looked surprised. "Are you sure? That's a lot of space for one person, and these managers, they can be difficult." I smiled slightly. I can handle the difficulties. You relax, I'll take care of it. What she didn't know was that I had specifically requested this assignment. I'd been planning this morning for weeks. Hidden in my cleaning cart, beneath the spray bottles and rags, was a tablet directly connected to the building's security system. Yes, I liked secret work. When I reached the 9th floor, it was silent. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lake Michigan, the early morning sun painting the water in shades of gold and orange. In a few hours, this space would be filled with managers making decisions that affected thousands of lives, but for now, it was just me and myself. I started cleaning in the conference room. I vacuumed the carpet. I wiped down the enormous mahogany table. I wiped down the leather tables and chairs. I cleaned everything from the windows to the doors. I placed tiny, almost invisible cameras in strategic locations, voice-activated recording devices hidden in the ventilation vents. It wasn't illegal. After all, I owned the building. But it was necessary for the future of the company. Because this meeting wouldn't be a normal meeting. Today, our board of directors would make decisions that would determine the life of the entire company, how it would continue. These decisions had to be made correctly. A merger that Charles Hartford had been pushing for months. Yes, he wanted to merge the companies. I had built this company from scratch, almost giving my youth to it. Now I was afraid that this man would come and ruin the company. At 7:34 a.m., I heard voices in the hallway. This place must be spotless. My father has great faith in this meeting. Vincent Hartford's voice. Loud, confident, as if he were entitled. While I continued cleaning with my back to the door, he and two other young executives entered. I recognized them from the company directory, Lawrence Bennett and Richard Stone. Both came from wealthy families. Both had been hired not because of their abilities, but because of their connections. I didn't even turn around as they said this. I remained silent, trying to be forgotten. "Excuse me," Lawrence called out, his voice filled with impatience. "We need this room. You'll have to finish it later." I turned slowly, keeping my eyes down and maintaining a submissive posture. "I only need 5 more minutes to finish the windows, sir." Vincent laughed. He really laughed. 5 minutes? We don't have 5 minutes. The meeting starts in 30 minutes and we need to prepare, understand? He said. "I understand. I'll work quickly and leave," I said. Richard approached, scrutinizing me from head to toe with a barely concealed disgust. "Do you understand what we're talking about?" He said. "We need the room. Now." My anger was rising, but I tried to keep my voice calm and gentle. "Yes, sir, I'm almost finished." Before I could finish, Vincent interrupted. "Almost finished? That's not enough. Do you know what the problem is? People like you don't understand what productivity is. You drag out simple tasks because you're paid by the hour. You're exploiting the system." Richard approached, scrutinizing me from head to toe with a barely concealed disgust. "Do you understand what we're talking about?" He said. "We need the room. Now." My anger was rising, but I tried to keep my voice calm and gentle. "Yes, sir, I'm almost finished." Before I could finish, Vincent interrupted. "Almost finished? That's not enough. Do you know what the problem is? People like you don't understand what productivity is. You drag out simple tasks because you're paid by the hour. You're exploiting the system." Lawrence smirked. "He's probably trying to rack up overtime. I'm sure he's already earning more than he deserves." My nerves were starting to fray. I was biting my cheek so hard I could taste the blood to keep from retorting. But I stuck to my act and didn't break the pattern. "I'm sorry, sir, I'm leaving right now." But Vincent hadn't finished yet. He stepped right in front of me and kept staring intently at me, saying, "Before you go, let me give you some advice. In the real world, in business, time is money. Every minute you waste costs this company. People like you need to understand that you're replaceable. So you leave and someone else comes. It's not a loss for this company or anyone else. There are hundreds of other cleaning ladies who would be grateful for your work. And Richard continued, and they probably would do it better and faster. Lawrence, scrolling through his phone, said, "Hey, should we take a picture? This is priceless. The manager meeting was postponed because the cleaning lady couldn't understand." I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood. I held my breath. I stayed true to my role. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm leaving right now." But Vincent hadn't finished yet. He stepped right in front of me and forced his gaze upon me. "Before you go, let me give you some advice. In the real world, in business, time is money. Every minute you waste costs this company. They need to understand that people like you are replaceable. There are hundreds of other cleaning ladies who would be grateful for your job." Richard added, "And they'd probably do it better and faster." Lawrence, scrolling through his phone, said, "Hey, let's take a picture? This is priceless. Manager meeting postponed because cleaning lady didn't understand the tip." "Let's take it," Vincent said, grinning. Things were heating up. And then Lawrence pulled out his phone, pointed it at me, and laughed. The flash went off. Half of the cleaning supplies were beside me, half in my hand, and they'd taken a picture of me like that. 3 monkeys in suits were taunting me. "This is going to the group chat," Lawrence typed quickly. "The kids will love it." Vincent was leaning against the conference table, staring at me in a way that was almost impressive. "You can go now," he said, waving his hand, "and perhaps tomorrow you'll try to be less useless." Without saying anything, I gathered my things and walked away. Let them think they've won. They have no idea what plan I'm going to play on them. They'll see who wins in the end. As I pushed my car toward the door, Vincent called out once more, "Oh, and cleaning lady? Don't touch any of the documents on the table. There are important papers there. I don't want you to get confused and throw away an important document." They started laughing even more. I stopped at the door, turned, and looked at Vincent Hartford for a brief moment. I just smiled. It wasn't a submissive, meek smile. It was a pre-apocalyptic smile. But they were so busy laughing that they didn't notice my face. I left the room. I went down to the basement and walked towards a private door that only 3 people in the building could access. When I reached the door, I used my private key. Inside was my office, hidden from everyone. Monitors showing every floor of the building, my actual computer connected to every system in the company. I also took off my gray uniform. Underneath, I was wearing a custom-made dark gray suit. I untied my hair. I quickly put on my makeup. The cleaning lady, Eleanor Hayes, disappeared. CEO Eleanor Hayes appeared. At that moment, I looked at my tablet. The hidden cameras I had installed were working. Vincent, Lawrence, and Richard were preparing for the meeting, still laughing about their encounter with the cleaning lady. I could see it. My assistant, Margaret Chen, appeared at the door. She was one of only 3 people who knew about my covert operation. "Is everything ready?" I asked. "Yes, sir. The board is arriving now. Mr. Hartford, the senior, is in your office preparing the merger presentation." "Excellent," I said, glancing at the clock. 8:48 a.m. "I'll give them 12 minutes to relax, then we'll begin," I said. "Are you sure about this approach? It's an unusual approach." I looked at the computer and completely involuntarily watched Vincent Hartford arrange the papers on the conference table. "Margaret, I've been monitoring this company from the bottom to the top for 3 months. I've seen this system where good people are rewarded for ruthlessness and various connections instead of merit. I've seen and documented harassment, discrimination, and corruption extending to the executives." I turned to her and said, "Today it all ends, and yes, I'm confident in everything I've done." At exactly 9 o'clock, I boarded the private elevator that went directly from the basement to the executive suite on the 9th floor. The doors opened into a corridor adjacent to the main conference room. I could hear their unpleasant conversations from inside. The meeting had begun, and it was slowly my turn to speak. I took a deep breath. I straightened my jacket, and I walked through the door. First, everyone fell silent. Then those who saw me froze. Charles Hartford was standing in front of the presentation screen, in the middle of his sentence. Vincent, Lawrence, and Richard were sitting in the back rows with their tablets open. "I apologize for the interruption," I said calmly, walking towards the head of the table. "Please continue." Charles Hartford's face was deathly pale. "It happened. Ms. Hayes, we weren't expecting this." "I know you weren't expecting it." I sat down in my chair. The CEO's chair, of course. This was intentional. Vincent was looking at me, his lips slightly parted. I watched the recognition slowly appear on his face. The cleaning lady. The woman he'd mocked 90 minutes ago. "You're her," he whispered. I turned to him. "Yes, Vincent, it's me," I said. Lawrence and Richard were staring at me as if they'd seen a ghost. The photo, the group chat, the mockery. It all vanished instantly. "For the past 3 months," I called out to those in the room, "I've been working undercover in this building. I've been working alongside the night cleaning staff. Some of you are probably wondering why a CEO would do something like this." I pulled the tablet out of my bag and connected it to the main screen. "This is why," I said. Video footage played, empty office conversations, emails sent and received, messages between executives. They all exemplified corruption, harassment, and abuse. Charles Hartford's merger wasn't about growth. It was about selling company assets to a firm he secretly owned. Hundreds of employees would lose their jobs while he made millions of dollars. "This merger vote has been canceled," I said confidently, along with several employment contracts. I looked directly at Vincent. "This morning you told me I was replaceable. You said hundreds of people would be grateful for my job. You mocked me. You took my picture. You treated me like I was worthless because of the uniform I wore." Vincent's hands were trembling. "Let them tremble. You were wrong about one thing, Vincent. In business, competence is more important than connections. Character is more important than references. And respect is determined not by one's position, but by how one treats those who cannot reciprocate." I couldn't stand it any longer. "You're fired. Effective immediately. Lawrence Bennett and Richard Stone, you're also fired. Security guards will escort you out," I said confidently. Charles Hartford found his voice. "You can't do that. I'll sue you," he said. "You can't do anything," I interrupted. "Because if you try, all the evidence I've gathered will go to the FBI. I'm giving you one option. Quietly resign and keep this confidential. If you fight me, you'll spend the next 10 years in court. The choice is yours." He sat there. Security guards came in and escorted Vincent, Lawrence, and Richard out. Vincent glanced back once, a look of humiliation on his face. The same expression he'd seen on my face when he'd mocked me. Karma doesn't always come quickly, but when it does, it makes things better. At the end of the meeting, I went back down to the basement. I put on the gray uniform again. I found Maria in the break room. "Maria, I need to tell you something," I said. I explained everything that had happened. Her eyes filled with tears. "You worked for us. You cleaned the toilets. You were one of us," she said. She couldn't believe it. "I still am," I said. "And thanks to what I've learned in the last 3 months, things are changing. Better pay, better benefits, policies of respect that really mean something." I was sincere in every word. 3 weeks later, I held a meeting with the company's revenue department. I announced the new policies. I promoted people based on merit, not connections. I offered everyone career advancement opportunities, regardless of their position. Cleaning staff received raises and health insurance. Maria became the facility management manager. And that gray uniform? I kept it. I framed it with a simple plaque in my office. Never forget where you came from. Never forget who built this with you. People asked me if I regretted that 3-month period. I didn't regret a single moment of it. Because sometimes you have to do these things to see people's true faces. Because you never know. That cleaning lady might be the owner of the building. My name is Eleanor Hayes, and this is my truth. If this story touched you, you can subscribe and be a part of these stories of pain turning into strength. You can also turn on notifications to be the first to know. Comment below. Have you ever been underestimated? Have you ever watched someone learn a hard lesson? Share your story. I read every comment. From Pain to Power is the place for stories.